Hello gardening friends, this is the 8th and final installment of palms that I have growing in my 8B garden, and we're ending with the jelly palm or Pindo palm, Butia Capitata. Sounds like a neat name. It's the only palm that I have that has this long feathery leaf. This particular one, I want to say, is about 10 years old. And this is the granddaddy of them. This particular one is 30 years old. It was one of the first palms that I planted in my backyard. It has a rather large trunk. You basically have to cut the old fronds off. And what I do is I like to cut them all off at the same distance from the trunk. They never really fall away from the trunk to give you a clean trunk. There you can see the space that held the flowers. It's called the jelly palm. In one of my videos earlier this year, I showed you what the fruit looks like. It smells a little bit like butterscotch. These are the spent fruits after the squirrels are done with them. And what I'm trying to do on the side is to get some things growing in the stem of this tree, this jelly palm, because it's a rather prominent feature in this portion of my yard. I did have the misfortune of not planning ahead, and I planted it extremely close to my house. Can't trip over things. It's only about 2 feet away from my house. But what I have been doing through the years is I've been selectively pruning out the fronds on the side by the house, and gradually the trunk of the palm has shifted. It's shifted enough so that it frees the roof now and it can grow. I wasn't ever expecting it to get as tall as it did. It's a nice palm. It has really no major problems. It is a grayish green color. It has somewhat spiny stems, but they're not sharp. They have these little things on them that make it difficult when you're cutting the branches, but I wouldn't actually call them a thorn, although maybe up closer to the fronds themselves they might get a little thorny. Major problem with this when you're cutting it is it's a heck of a long branch. And when you cut it at the base, you kind of have to hold it, because it's going to want to, as soon as it releases from itself, it whips down and can break other plants with the tips as it falls to the ground. Again, this one is I've been gardening here for exactly 30 years, and this was amongst the first 3 palms that I planted in my backyard, so it's been in this spot for 30 years. I don't know how old it was. Typically I buy palms small because that's the way you can afford them. Typically I would spend $30 or $40. This was 30 years ago. I don't know what they run now. This is really the nicest looking one here. In fact, I just trimmed a couple of branches off this morning. It's a nice looking palm. I have had one more in my front yard, but I had to destroy it. It got bud rot, and what that did is the new growth, the central spire, yellowed, and started turning brown, and I didn't exactly know what that was until I looked it up in my book. And if you know this series, you know that the book I'm talking about is Betrox, and we're ready to see what it has to say about the jelly palm, Pindo palm. Here we go again for the last time. Betrox Guide to Landscape Palms. Actually, I kind of like the Butia Capitata. Sounds like a song. In any event, the hardiness zone for this particular palm is 8 to 10B. Typical height is 15 feet. Slow growing. It comes from central southern Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay. Let's see, it doesn't have many soil requirements. It does have edible fruit. Like I said, to me, I'm not crazy about it. The squirrels love it though, and they spread the little seedlings all over the yard. And they do sprout. The seedlings do sprout. Let's see, the major diseases it suffers from: Ganoderma, never had that. Stigmina leaf spot, never had that. Graphiola false moth, never had that. Phytophthora, bud rot, that I've had. And from when I looked it up in this book and found that, and then looked it up, I found out it was extremely contagious to other palms. So that's why I decided to have the palm removed. So we pulled it out and set it at the street to be picked up with our big trash pickup in the city. It was a shame because it was about a 10-year-old palm. But live and learn. You can supposedly try to save a palm by putting a little peroxide in the growing tip if you see it, the actual sprout starting to turn yellow. But you have to do it quickly, and by the time I figured out what was going on, it already had an odor about it and was really just too late. It just rotted. So there you have it. The last palm in my series of palms that grow in my 8B garden. For those of you that are keeping track of the order, I went in reverse alphabetical order according to the Latin names. So there you have it. Those are the 8 palms that grow in my area. Have a good day.